Okay, I just wanted to touch base on budgeting and budgets these days. Generally, really want to mention this because obviously with costs obviously keep going up and obviously people's surplus income going down due to various reasons. The importance of maintaining your property though is still paramount because otherwise you will end up spending more money in the future. I just wanted to touch base really on this. So there is a couple of services that we do that I think we've mentioned before that obviously we can do a schedule of works and then look at the budget, look at how best to spend that budget, when to spend that budget. But it's important to keep maintaining a maintenance and repair budget for properties. Whether it's a small property or a large property, is obviously the figure is different, but in the scale of what you need to be allowing for is obviously subject to the size of your property. However, it's important to keep your property maintained, which is where, like I say, I can do various services of surveying, looking at the property, working out your budget, working out a time scale for the budget. So I've just done a small video actually on a couple of casements that we're making for a property where they're just starting to do some maintenance at high level because they had a scaffold up for various works, and there's a couple of windows on the second floor that basically were non-repairable. However, the cost to replace them, okay, there is obviously a cost for that, but however, the cost to replace them, if they had taken the scaffold down, left it another 6 months to a year, then they'd have issues with potentially glass falling out, and then having to put the scaffold back up, then getting them made, then installing them, taking the scaffold down and getting redecorated. So one of the things that I like to try and do is we plan on works going forward and looking at what has to be done now and what's sensible to package. For instance, if you've got a small leak around a chimney and you've got to have access scaffold to do it, what other work should we look at budgeting for while that scaffold is up? Sometimes you can't, sometimes the budget isn't there. However, it's always good to have a look at what other things could be carried out to minimise the long-term cost, whether that's damage with leaking gutters, for instance, causing damp inside a property, or whether it's just you having to put scaffolds up, taking the scaffolds down. So we've had a couple of jobs this week where they got their budget has not met with the works required once the scaffold has gone up. However, from sort of surveying it, looking at it and discussing, it's been, we've looked at it and go, okay, anything that needs a scaffold needs to be done if possible. So that's the works that are going to be carried out. Low level works that can be carried out without a scaffold can be budgeted for 6 months' time. So that's what we're looking at. We're going to put a schedule together for them, and that will be put in, and they know what the budget will need to be. Those costs will be in place. Okay, you do have to allow sometimes for increasing costs, whether that's materials or labour. However, at least they've got a budget to work to. So they know over the next 3 to 6 months they've got to save X amount of pounds for doing these works. But again, it can be staged, and that's where we come in. I think moving forward, everyone just sort of can bury their head in the sand, and it's very important not to, because generally in the long run it will end up costing people a lot more money, because the problem will get worse. That problem will then create potentially other problems, which then in effect will cost more money. So yes, I think moving forward, I think it's very important people to have a look, and our surveying costs will potentially save you a lot of money in the future, and allow you to budget. So at least you've got a figure to work to. So that's half the problem. People don't know quite where to start. They don't quite know what it's going to cost. They don't know where to schedule it. So we can do that, but I think it is very important for people to look at that. So if you do want us to come around, have a look at the works, give you an idea of what a surveying and budgeting cost would be for you, then we're more than happy to do that. Obviously, if it's a full survey with a report, then obviously we would outline our costs for doing that. And then, yeah. But if you've got anything you want us to look at, you're not sure where to start, you're not sure how much it's going to cost, when to do it, any of those factors that people just sort of get tripped up by or struggle with, then yeah, get in touch, and we're more than happy to help you with that.